good. I'm Scotty Beam. Listen, before we start the panel, I want to make sure that I tell you guys to go to the DKMS booth that's outside. They are working to delete blood cancer and diseases, and I think it's very important for us to go over there and learn more about it. And if you can't do that, please go to dkms.org to learn more about, you know, being a donor, because you could be giving somebody a second shot at life, period. Okay, so let's do that. Are we all going to turn up at the DKMS panel? I mean, the DKMS booth? Let's make that a thing. All right. So to begin this panel, this is titled Hip Hop versus Trump. Lord Jesus. So yeah, let's start that. Hip hop has given much needed voices to the voiceless. You have rappers like Dead Prez, Public Enemy, you know, we have Common, we have so many other rappers that have literally talked about politics thanks to hip-hop, you know what I'm talking about. So this panel is talking about influential people who use the power of hip-hop to challenge politics. So to do that, we have the very talented CEO of JIJ Communications, Jeff Johnson, the moderator, to do that. Give it up for Jeff Johnson one time. Enjoy, guys.
Do we have a countdown to live, or are we live? What's up, y'all? Big round of applause. Revolt Music Conference. And everybody that is watching live from all over the world, we have an incredible panel that we are getting ready to get into. And the title of the panel is Hip Hop versus Trump. Before we lay the foundation for this conversation, I want to introduce the tribe that is behind me, that is representing our panel for today. Most of you know who they are. Can we give it up for my man, DeTwan Thomas, editor-in-chief of Vibe magazine. Rob Kenner, executive editor of Mass Appeal. Shaheem Reed, host, writer, producer, Revolt TV. Vanessa Satan, editor-in-chief of XXL. Author, media maven, brand curator, all-around badass chick, Karen Civil. National Action Network out of San Diego, the president, Reverend Shane Harris. My brother, David Banner. Artist who just killed it at BET on the Cypher, brother Mysonne. Joey Badass. And the one and only T.I. So let's provide some context real quick. And Andre, I hope you don't mind a little bit. Hello, sir. How are you? Very quickly, y'all give it up for Sean Combs. If I can for a moment just have a friendly amendment, because my mother always told me, don't give anybody power who doesn't deserve it. So if I can say really quickly, a magician is an entertainer who is skilled in producing illusion by sleight of hand, deceptive devices, a conjurer. Satan is a figure who brings evil and temptation and is known as the deceiver who leads humanity astray. Fuck Trump. And if we spend the next hour of our discussion talking about what we need to do in response of a puppeteer, magician, evil Satan, then we diminish the value of everybody on this stage and the people in this room. So when we fight white supremacy, we neutralize Trump. When we fight white supremacy, we neutralize those that support Trump. But by focusing on Trump, all we're doing is focusing on tweets that are disconnected from a president that has even been able to pass a single piece of legislation. All right. If you don't get it, that means he hasn't done anything. And so as disruptive as he has the potential of being, he becomes more disruptive when we give him more power than he has. So I'm excited about the brothers and sisters that are on this panel because they're doing actual work. And they have recommendations, and those of you in this room are doing work. And if we can talk about what is the plan that we use to create power for the people that are part of a community that love hip-hop, then we automatically defeat a president that will only be there for a short time. We fought Bush, we supported Obama, we fought Trump, but many of our communities didn't change. The question is, how do we use hip-hop? How do we use economics? How do we use art? How do we use politics? How do we use the power of our voice to change the reality of the people that can't afford to come to the Revolt Music Conference, but are waiting on a nation of people to provide inspiration through art and excellence through business to not just make money, but make social impact? And so, the mic is going to be open for questions immediately. The only mic that is going to be open is the mic to my left. And so you all can begin to get in line. I am going to ask questions. I'm going to take questions from the audience. We're going to have an incredible conversation. Rule number one for asking a question, ask a question. Rule number two, ask a question. Third rule. If within 15 seconds you don't set up your question to ask a question, I will ask you what is the question. So let me do this really quickly. If I can start, David, with you and spin to Tip. Both of you have had your own personal evolution within how you view yourself as artists and how you view yourself in speaking out about issues that impact your community. If you can talk a little bit about your own personal evolution, because a lot of people have wanted y'all to talk about issues when you may not have been ready, and then when you were ready, people were saying, why are you talking about it? So what was your personal evolution, and how has it impacted not just you as a man, but your actual art?
Well, for me, and I'm honored that you asked this question with me and Tip, because in a lot of ways we went through it together. You know, when we met each other, we were a lot different than we were today, and I'm honored to see his evolution as well as mine. But for me, honestly, it wasn't as much as an evolution as people would like to think. You've been knowing me for over 10 years now. I've been saying the same thing over and over again, except before I was drunk, high, and slightly oversexed. I didn't mind the last part, but I didn't love me. And in so many cases, I would like to even start off as it pertains to Trump. Trump isn't the problem. I'm actually grateful for Trump. And I will tell you why. I will tell you why quickly. I haven't seen black people this engaged in the political process a week after the president won in my whole entire life. I got homeboys who I know don't give a damn about nothing that got to do with black power. They come up to me like, and excuse me, they be like, Dave Banner, I like that black power shit, my nigga. And I know that they saying that they feel me. So in me saying that, I am grateful, because what Trump has done is taking away the excuse that white liberals have that this is a post-racial America. And in so many cases, the last time I went on CNN, I told them, I said, what do you want me to say that I didn't say when Mike Brown died? What do you want me to say that they didn't say when Emmett Till died? So the thing is, I think something that looks so negative, in some cases, the Most High will use to motivate our people. Because what more can we do besides our children dying? But for me personally, it hasn't been much. I'm just grateful that before people thought I was crazy when I made this change, and now when shit started happening, people started looking for Mr. Crazy now.
Mm-hmm. That's good. Tip.
Well, to moreover what Brother Banner said, like, my evolution is constant, you know, and I don't see myself at a place where, you know, oh, well, now I have changed so much and my perspective is so immensely different. It's just that we're both growing in a system or in an environment where things are happening that affect us, our loved ones, our livelihoods, our culture, our way of life. And after so long, well, not bound, but I have children, and they growing up in the world that I have an opportunity to affect change, and I would not be able to look them in the eyes if I hadn't exercised and exhausted all my resources and options to do everything possible to institute that change. Now, there was a time that, you know, and I guess I could also thank Agent Orange for this. In a period of my life, man, I think it was about 2-3 years ago, I filmed Roots, the readaptation of Roots, and, you know, just being in that, putting myself in that mindset, you know, and luckily for me, I was a rebellious runaway slave. I never took no orders from no white man in my role, you know what I'm saying? You know, when they met me, I was already running, you know what I'm saying? You know, but being in that, like being on those plantations and, you know, just the story and you know, consuming yourself with the character, after it's over with, you know, I took a little bit of that with me, you know what I'm saying? And then very shortly after that, I took my first trip to South Africa. And I saw all the black people and all the, like, I went to Nelson Mandela's house and sat with his grandson, and, you know, I went to Cape Town and saw the oppression of how, you know, they colonized it and pushed all the people out and took all of the valuable resources and got rich off of it while the people stayed poor, like all that kind of stuff. And while I was in South Africa, that's when I saw Trump. He cast a protester out of his rally, and it was a black female, it was a sister, and they pushing her around and dragging out, and then that's when he said, yeah, that's how we need to do them, and if anybody goes to jail for it, you know, I got your bond money. So then that when I hopped on Instagram, I was like, homeboy, fuck you, like, for real, like. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, now we have, as you say, evolved, and you know, we've all made it to a place where, you know, we operate on principle, and we want to be fair to everybody and non-violent as possible, but man, I ain't finna take no abuse to my people, because that'll be just the same as me and Banner or Puff or Badass or any of the other people with power and influence getting on a stage with a packed arena. And if it's anybody who may support him in there, and for us to say, yeah, get him out of here, anybody go to jail, we got it. See, we would be considered terrorists if we did that, you know what I'm saying? So after that, I just made my mind up, man, that I was gonna come back and, you know, and do everything I could, man, to try to just create some form of dialogue that could institute change.
I appreciate that. If you can go to the line, if you can just say your name, where you're from, and your question, please.
Okay, yeah. Hey, Jeff, what's up? I just want to say quickly, my name is Amit Singh. I'm the chief political correspondent here at Revolt. I'm going to be hanging out here with all the people who have questions. Very quickly, I want to say we talk about these issues every day at Revolt. I want to thank all of you for being here, and thank you, Jeff, for steering the question so ably, conversation. So this is Mo Viggs. He's 21 from Miami, and he's got a question as a producer.
Hey, so obviously, you know, there's a lot of artists who have their say about Trump and everything you guys are talking about. I just wanted to know what you think as a producer, or like someone behind the scenes more or less, could do to help the subject, pretty much.
Joe, you want to take that?
Read my mind. I'd say support the people who's, you know, speaking on the causes. That's the best thing that people behind the scenes could do, you know, stand up with the people who are standing up.
Well, please, go ahead.
In my opinion, it doesn't really matter what you do behind the scenes, on the scene, in front of the camera, off the camera, with music, without music, as long as you denounce the foolishness that he represents personally. It don't matter whether you do it privately, publicly, on TV, off TV, you just got to denounce it. And when you denounce it in your mind and your heart, it's going to follow through with all your action. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's the first thing anybody can do.
For sure.
Let me do real quick, Mysonne, if you can come in, because I think there's a lot of people in the room, whether they're in music or whether they are teachers, that are figuring out, how do I plug in? I'm pissed off. I hate this president, but I want to see something change. You've done a lot of work with young people and movement work around the country. How are you talking to people about finding their place to use their unique gift to speak their truth in a real way?
Well, thanks for having me here on this panel, Jeff. When I speak to young people, I tell them you have to find your purpose. And then you have to understand the climate that we are in America right now. And you got to figure out how do you utilize that purpose to help to, to balance, to bring some type of level of balance to the negativity that we're dealing right now. A lot of young people, they look up to you as an artist, they look up to Tip, they look up to David Banner, and when you see them stepping into the arena and they're making conscious decisions that they're going to speak out against injustice, they're going to make a sacrifice. Like when you look at what Colin Kaepernick did, it was about injustice. He took a platform that he had based on his talent, and he sacrificed everything to make change. And when you see, and that's what I point out, when you look at people who make sacrifices and they don't think about, I'm going to lose this, or, because I acknowledge that. That's a very real situation that you're going to lose your money. But you don't understand that we got here because somebody lost something. So I tell these children that you have to make a conscious decision to make a sacrifice and be uncomfortable. That's what's going to get us where we need to go.
Well, and let's be real, though, because when people make these sacrifices, there's real consequences. So Sister Jamel is suspended from ESPN because she was bold enough to walk in her truth and make a statement. But what's funny is I see people retweet what she got suspended for, but who's engaged the advertisers of ESPN? And so, Karen, I want to talk a little bit about brands and about how brands respond to consumers. And what Sister Hill said is exactly right, but in some cases we just don't know how to do it. What are the ways that we as consumers, either in an independent way or a collective way, engage brands to put pressure on them to know what their consumers want as it relates to the content that they are or not supporting?
I guess for an example, and a situation that we've been dealing with for about the last year and a half. So YG and Nipsey Hussle put out this record called FDT, which is Fuck Donald Trump. This was something, they turned on the television, they're seeing what he is saying about Hispanic America, wanting to build a wall. This was before he became president. And they said, you know what, we want to put out this song. And I explained to them what the backlash will cause. Companies are going to pull out. People aren't going to sponsor you, certain things, the pros and cons. And they were okay with that because they wanted to voice their opinion, how they feel, performing it at certain venues. And then it came to a point where venues did not want them. Sponsorship dollars and bookings started to stop. And they didn't utilize their Twitter or social media saying, oh, we can't get booked because of this or whatever the case may be. They said, we're still performing our song. This is not about the money. This is about the message. And now it was, he made it his business. The FBI was involved. They banned the song from radio. And now, because of how bad he is, radio had no choice but to bring the record back. So now he's even more upset. And making it hard because a lot of the people who own these venues are friends of his, are donors. So it's, oh, YG can perform here at so-and-so school, but he can't do this, or we're going to fine him. If Nipsey do this, we're going to fine them. Fine, you may not like our message, but marketing is our thing. So you don't want to hear the lyrics? We're going to put it on a t-shirt, and we're going to sell this t-shirt, and the money is going to go back towards prison reform. So whether you want to hear the song, you're going to see the words. So it's not going to stop us. So this is just something that we deal with on an everyday basis.
And Karen, I appreciate that. Please, yes. Because there really is the need to talk about, are we resilient enough to be focused? Because there's a lot of people that as soon as the band comes down, they're good and they just flip. Reverend Harris, I want you to talk a little bit about the question that I asked Karen, which is brands, when all is said and done, keep making money. And in many cases, they make money in opposition to what audiences say they care about. How can audiences become more sophisticated in not even necessarily attacking brands, but in engaging with brands about content that they want to see in responses to what ESPN is doing, in response to what the NFL is doing? Because even with the boycott of the NFL, I haven't seen anybody engage a sponsor of the NFL because the NFL already got their money. And so if the NFL already got their money, how do we begin to be sophisticated about engaging the brands? Rev.
Well, I think, and I want to thank you all for having me here, I think that very clearly there's a history that has to be brought back up here at this conference. And there is a history of the FBI and those coming in trying to silence hip-hop. But we have to remind ourselves that every time they tried to silence hip-hop, hip-hop always won. 2 examples. Go ahead, you can clap. Two examples particular that went to Supreme Court. The NWA, what they tried to do there, and 2 Live Crew. There is a history of hip-hop being able to overcome the issues when it comes to them trying to silence us, and we must be able to engage in that history, remind ourselves of that now. So to your question, when you talk about the sponsors, and you talk about boycotting those sponsors, yep, we can protest, we can hashtag, we could even stand out in front of ESPN and say what you did to Jamil Hill is wrong. But we must be on our phones calling advertisers from T.I. to David Banner to me to Reverend Sharpton to National Action Network, P. Diddy, whoever. We need to be on those phones calling people saying you need to drop your sponsorship and your advertisement of them if you're not going to support, if they're not going to support our First Amendment rights and our ability to speak up. And that is how we will engage Jerry Jones, who is really doing his players wrong on the Cowboys, trying to silence their First Amendment right. We need to tell folks that sponsor Cowboys team that if you're not going to support their First Amendment rights, you need to drop your sponsorship and your advertisement. That's the only way we're going to affect change in that realm.
Thank you, Rev. Want to get a question from the audience?
Thank you, Reverend. Thank you, Jeff. I'm here we have a lot of artists down here who have a lot of opinions about this. We have an artist here by the name of Sarah Love. She's 26 and from Miami. She has a question for you.
I want to know if you guys believe that President Trump will inadvertently make America great again. Because, you know, for every action, there's a reaction.
And David, that's a little bit what you talked about, but if there's anybody that is interested in just wondering if you would talk about that, let's talk about what potentially comes out of this. David talked about igniting people that hadn't been igniting, exciting mobilization that hadn't been excited. But on the business side, what are we also seeing? That a Trump administration, because if you don't think Trump is impacting the marketplace, you out of your mind. What are you seeing on the business side that actually may be a positive or a silver lining as a result of him being there?
I think on the business side, you're going to start seeing different companies start to have like meetings and say like, hey, you know what, we need to engage with the people because of the pressure that these people are doing and the people that follow them. But on the music side, I just want to jump on the music side real quick. When you think about, you know, the civil rights era in the 60s and everything, and all the incredible music that came out of that time, and all the different artists that spoke about real things as far as, like, you know, Marvin Gaye and Nina Simone and galvanizing the people, they were all shut down. But I think they were shut down because they didn't have, like, the power of hip-hop behind them. You know, like, they had the power of R&B, they had the power of soul, and that's a little bit more, like, laid back and cool. But with hip-hop, we're engaging, we're in your face, we're going to let you know what it is, and we need artists to be like that. So when an Eminem does what he did, or a Mysonne does what he did on the cypher, everybody's like, I've been with Mysonne the last 2 days. Everyone has been coming up to him talking about, yo, man, you did it. But are they saying that to everybody else? Are they getting that out to all the people? We have to be able to, and especially on the media side, we have to be able to galvanize behind someone that's going to be like, all right, you know what? If y'all all can't say it the way that I say it, at least get behind me and say like, hey, this brother is saying it the way that I would like to. So on the music, I think, especially since everybody here is just trying to get into the game, that's what you're supposed to do with your platform. That's what you're supposed to do as a media entity as well. We have to support those that are jumping out for us and taking those bullets.
Rob and Vanessa, if you can chime in here, because there is a media role, but most of these companies are still for-profit businesses that have to make money. How do you balance, especially as a publication or a platform that says they're for hip-hop, bringing in the advertisers and making the money, but simultaneously supporting a move in hip-hop that is saying we care about issues, we care about protests, even if it sometimes goes in opposition to some of your advertisers?
Well, when we talk about the power of hip-hop, Vanessa, if you don't mind, I'm just going to kick it off. Let's step back and realize where we're sitting right now. We're at the Revolt Music Conference. shout out to the chairman, Mr. Combs, right here, put this mic in my hand, and I'm humbled and honored to be here, Mr. Harrell. The fact is, hip-hop does have a voice, and artists now own media platforms. I'm here on behalf of Mass Appeal, the last of the real. That's Nas is my boss. So, you know, Elliot Wilson was here representing Tidal yesterday. So it's not as if hip-hop is on the outside looking in anymore. And it's a matter of recognizing our power and speaking truth to power, because we do have those platforms. You know, when Eminem went on that cipher and said what he said, especially in that last verse, I feel he was addressing his white fans. I don't know if anyone else read it that way, but he said, any fan of mine who can't decide, I'm drawing a line in the sand. He was using that platform on black entertainment television to talk to white rap fans that, you know, might have helped the Michigan election turn in favor of Trump, because he won that state by a very slim margin. And if you read the editorial that we published on Mass Appeal the next day, we pointed out, thank you, that was a dope verse, but if it had come out in November, you know, maybe things would be a little different. I heard a lot from Kid Rock during the election on behalf of Donald Trump, you know, and just to say, you know, props to Eminem, but was it too little too late?
Let me do this, Vanessa, before you chime in. Tip, I want to ask you a question, because people are asking, was it too little too late? Should M have said it earlier? How do we get out of telling people when to take a stand and supporting, because there's a whole lot of folks talking we don't want to listen to, waiting for people who aren't going to talk. So how do we lift up the voices prepared to speak, as opposed to always wanting another voice to speak that may not be prepared?
Well, I think we have to organize ourselves and unify, and as we do that, there will begin to be a larger voice speaking the same message in unison. And when times like that come about, we'll be able to push the person to the front that's already in the group, that's a part of the voice, and say, hey man, I think you should take this one. You know what I'm saying? It's like we haven't really mobilized properly, and we haven't organized ourselves to demonstrate at a point where we would really affect the opinions of the opposing side. You know what I'm saying? Like, we just kind of grabbed everything and hurry up, everybody get out there and vote, because we found out maybe 2-3 weeks beforehand he was a little too close, you know, to Hillary. So we're like, hey y'all, it's serious now, okay? It's really serious. We need to do something now, okay? You know? And I think that had we already, you know what I'm saying, been unified to mobilize sooner, we could have had, you know, more of an opportunity for something like that to have happened, you know.
Well, and I'm excited to see what's happening in Atlanta. Some of you in Atlanta know that there's a mayor's race that's like Game of Thrones. And I saw several meetings of people coming together to say, let's not let our black political power be separated by voting for one of 4 black folks and letting a white person who doesn't really represent us, right? Because it's not about white for white's sake.
It isn't.
But who doesn't represent our issues. And so I was proud of seeing that. I also want to say I'm proud of Sister Tamika Mallory, who's in the audience, who is one of the organizers of the... Stand up, Tamika. Who is doing strategic organizing all over the country and representing us well. I know some of y'all got something to say, but I promised I was going to get to as many questions as I can. I want to go back to the audience.
Thank you for that, Jeff. I mean, I think one of the big themes